Welcome to Your Dairy Checkoff Podcast from Dairy Management, Inc., where dairy checkoff leaders and farmers share real stories, strategies, and insights that grow sales and build trust for U.S. dairy. Let's get started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Regional Rundown, a segment of the Your Dairy Checkoff podcast where we talk to local, state, and region organizations about the work that they're doing to drive sales and build trust in dairy. On today's episode, we're glad to be joined by Brooke Williams with the American Dairy Association of Indiana to talk through all the cool things they're doing around the Indianapolis 500. So, Brooke, give us a little bit of your background, your history.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me today. Brooke Williams, as you mentioned, the Director of Communications. I have been working for the American Dairy Association Indiana and our Indiana dairy farm families almost 12 years now. I came from a communications background, and I can't believe it's already been 12 years, but I've been in this role about 5 years now, I believe. And so as we'll talk about today, the Indy 500 and getting to spend the time with our Indiana dairy farmers every year is one of the highlights of my year. So very excited to talk about all things Indiana dairy and Indy 500.
Great. So you mentioned the Indianapolis 500. What does that have to do with dairy, and how has dairy become involved with the Indianapolis 500?
Even growing up in Indiana, I always knew what the Indianapolis 500 was. It's about 20 miles from where I grew up. And I always knew that milk was what the winner drank. But really, until I started working for Indiana dairy farm families, I didn't know the whole tradition behind it. So the way it started back in 1936, there was a driver by the name of Louis Meyer who always quenched his thirst with buttermilk back on the farm. And so when he won the second race and the third race, he just naturally requested a drink of buttermilk. And so it wasn't until that race in 1936 was photographed of Louis drinking the milk that it really started this tradition. So we've been very fortunate that ever since then, obviously we have embraced the tradition, but more so than that, the state of Indiana has embraced the tradition. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway and fans all across the world know that winners drink milk at the Indianapolis 500. So we've been very, very fortunate that as years go by, there becomes more and more attention on that race. But more so than that, we're very happy that we every year get to share a dairy farming story, because it is an Indiana dairy farmer there who is delivering the ice cold quart of milk to that winning driver and to that winning team.
Did I hear you right that he drank buttermilk?
He did drink buttermilk, and it's funny. It's become a good educational tool for us now, because we get a driver every once in a while that says, I want to stick to the true tradition and drink buttermilk. But as we all know, and as farmers know, buttermilk today is not exactly what Louis Meyer was drinking back in 1936. So we've had to tell people that, we're not making butter necessarily anymore and kind of skimming the top off and drinking that delicious buttermilk. It's now for baking. It tastes a little different, but we still tell the drivers if they want to drink it ahead of time and they look really happy about it, we would consider putting it in a bottle for them if they happen to win the Indy 500. But so far, we stick to 3 different types of white milk on that race day.
So you mentioned that the farmers get to hand the winner this milk, and I believe you have a program that the farmers get to participate in. Can you tell us a little bit more about how those farmers are selected and some of the things that they go through to be a part of this?
Yeah. In the early 2000s, we really formalized this program. So every year there are 2 Indiana dairy farmers. We call one of them a rookie if it's their first year going to the Indy 500, and that second year they become the veteran dairy farmer. And the way that it works, as I mentioned, always an Indiana dairy farmer representing all dairy farms in the state. But we had to formalize it because we realized if you take a farmer off of their field for a day and put them in front of the 300,000 people there on race day, it's very nerve-wracking. And so we've now created a program where they have to fill out an application if they're interested. They have to tell us that they're willing. It's a 3-year commitment. We actually have a rookie elect that shadows now the program. Then they're that rookie, that veteran. We put them through media training. And there's a lot of time off the farm, especially the month of May, but also inviting media and visitors onto their farm during that month leading up to the race as well. So it's a different lifestyle there for a few years, but the dairy farmers are always thrilled to do it once they've signed on. But they fill out the application. There's a selection committee that's made up of our board of dairy farmers, and then a few of our staff members. And we just want to make sure that they're going to be comfortable doing the media, and then again being in that spotlight on race day, making sure that it really is a smooth delivery of that ice cold milk to the winning team. But it's always really fun to be able to tell every farmers they have a different story to tell, right? Like dairy farming is the same across the board. They're all there taking care of animals and producing such a nutritious, delicious product. But every farm looks different. It's, some are multi-generational. We had a farmer a couple years back that he was a first-time farmer and just wanted to go into farming because he wanted to do something alongside family. And so it really makes every year different, even though the end result is the same, giving a driver a bottle of milk. But for us, it's always fun to see the dairy farmers go from being that rookie elect and just shadowing to when they're in that winner's circle and just how emotionally overcome they are. Just proud of themselves, proud to represent dairy farmers. And so to see that evolution over time, it's always really cool that we can say it dates back to the 1930s.
Would you say that the increase or there has been an increase in attention on the dairy farms and their stories over the years?
Absolutely. I think every year we get more media requests to go out onto the farms or to have a phone interview, to do a Zoom interview. This year was the first year we did media in Cincinnati. We went to a TV station up in Chicago, all leading up to the race. So just, I think naturally more and more people are already wondering, where's your food coming from? And, tell us more about why milk at the Indy 500. Who are these people bringing in the milk? But just from media numbers alone, this year, we had about $7 million just in that ad value equivalency of what it would cost for us to buy all of the media attention that our dairy farmers got the month of May. Just talking about milk, talking about dairy farming and what it means to them to be a part of this tradition. And, our budget is not that expansive in the state of Indiana. So be able to have that be the story is just one kind of touch point of dairy in the state of Indiana. I mean, that's something that truly we couldn't afford. And we see that number every year getting higher and higher.
That's insane. So essentially, you're getting almost $7 million of free advertising through this partnership that you've had for so many years.
Yeah, $7 million just in that ad value. And then that doesn't even account for this year, Fox Sports had record views of the Indy 500 itself. 7.5 million viewers tuned in to the Indy 500. In just the last 15 minutes alone of the race, I think they said a little over 8 million people tuned in to see who the winning driver was going to be. And of course, that drink of milk quickly follows that. So, yeah, it's money that, again, we wouldn't be able to put the dollars behind it. And just the attention that IndyCar is getting, that the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is getting, and that our dairy farmers are getting is something that we're so proud to be a part of.
It's such a cool and unique way to feature milk, but also the farmers. I love the program that you've developed to not only get your farmers front and center, but to share a little bit more of their story and the uniqueness that each of them brings to the industry. It's so cool to see that come to life.
Yeah, it's really fun, especially that month of May here in Indianapolis. The whole city and the community comes together to really start counting down to race weekend. But for the farmers too, it's funny to see their reactions, especially race weekend alone. We have them go up on a float at the 500 Festivals Parade downtown Indianapolis, and the streets are just lined with people that are there they're in town for race weekend. They're with their friends and families. But we always tell the farmers, you're going to be shocked at the response that your float is going to get. And we have our two dairy farmers up there holding a fake bottle of milk. We have a larger than life, huge styrofoam cow on the float with winners drink milk. And just as they're coming down, the people that are shouting milk, milk, and, cheering for the farmers. And it's neat for us to see them in that regard and in that spotlight, just because it is so different than when we just say, hey, we have a group of third graders that want to visit the farm, and you see them kind of in their day to day. But when we can pull them out of that and really see how a community comes together for milk, it really does blow their mind. And they every year it's just fun to see their reactions, and that's just a parade. So then the next day, leading them in, and they carry in the official cooler full of the milk bottles that go under lock and key, and to see people that just want to take a picture of the coolers and with the farmers. And it's something that they don't get to do day to day, and so it's fun to really kind of pluck them out and put them in that environment, where we hope they walk away. And I know they walk away, they would tell you feeling very appreciative, and just can't believe that dairy is getting that attention.
So you guys did a couple of new things this year for the Indianapolis 500. Can you share a little bit more about what this year looked like versus the past years?
Yeah, it was back in 2016. It was the 100th running of the Indy 500, and we did a partnership where we had special edition milk bottles made. And so it hadn't been since that time. Since then, the Motor Speedway is under new ownership. If you've heard of the name Penske, Roger Penske bought the Motor Speedway. And one of the things he remembered was that 100th running before he owned the track where we did these milk bottles. And so he loves the tradition, and he asked us and our team if we would be able to make that happen again. So we were very fortunate. Prairie Farms signed on to do this product kind of readaptation. They were already selling pint bottles, and then they do a lot of the cartons in schools and hospitals here in the state. And so we came together to do a joint design to celebrate the Indy 500 and really bring more attention to milk sales, in all the different areas that Prairie Farms milk is sold. So what happened was they ended up doing across the board, whether it was strawberry milk, chocolate milk, or the different white milk varieties. Each bottle featured a different Indy 500 driver with the image of them celebrating with milk when they won. So they did the pint bottles, and they did a 10-week run, and they were looking at sales about 8 million pints. And it ended up being not just in Indiana, but the Prairie Farms region. So there were 6 states primarily, but it even went out past that. And then you think about the little milk cartons that are out in schools, and just being able to put a winner's drink milk messaging on the side featuring a race car driver. And those cartons, they were said in that 10-week period, about 101 million cartons of milk, just featuring the likeness of our winner's drink milk slogan, but also getting kids that are already excited about the Indy 500 in the state of Indiana, but being able to then push that message out of the state and bring more eyes to that moment where we're sharing the dairy farmer's story. It was a really fun collaboration. You don't think about, I'm getting excited about milk all the time, but for us anyway, we're thrilled to amplify the story of the tradition of milk at the Indy 500, and to have Prairie Farms come alongside and do that. And because of that and the excitement and just the sales numbers increasing for Prairie Farms, the Motor Speedway actually sold milk on race day and the couple weeks leading up to the race at 2 different grab and go locations at the track. And also they put those cartons as part of the kids' meals at their different concessions throughout the track. And we've never been able, we always encourage people on media, and our dairy farmers do, to grab a glass of milk at home and celebrate alongside the winner. And this is the first year we can say, or if you're at the track, go buy a bottle of milk and celebrate, as the winner's drinking milk right here at the end of the race. So it was this idea that, we would like to take some credit for it back in 2016, but I think without the guidance of Roger Penske wanting it to happen again, it was really fun to partner up with Prairie Farms and to see them put, the marketing behind it. They had billboards around the city, just really encouraging people to go out and buy milk. And so just another fun way to do it. Very, very happy that it was all happened.
So I have to know, the winners drink what kind of milk?
So leading up to the race, we actually have the drivers make a milk selection. So as I mentioned, it will always be white milk. We have to stick with tradition, at least of the color. It may not be buttermilk, but it's going to be white milk. And then they can choose between whole milk, 2%, or skim. So the drivers all selected beforehand, and then our dairy farmers are there waiting for the winning driver to cross that finish line, and they have their list of what everyone has selected. And so this year, I feel like our dairy farmers would be very happy to hear that 29 of the 33 drivers selected whole milk, and the others chose 2%. No drivers selected skim milk. And this is kind of a trend that we've seen the last few years, kind of the trend of whole milk anyway. And I think people going back to that real whole milk flavor. And so it's been fun to see less and less drivers choosing skim milk and really gravitating toward whole.
So have you had any drivers that have not wanted to drink milk?
Yeah, we every once in a while there will be a driver that comes in, and most of the time they're going to be those rookie drivers who haven't driven at the Indy 500 before, who still don't know all the traditions around it. There's a driver the last couple years who's a vegan, but every year he still comes in and selects whole milk. So he's been educated. He's been told by his teammates that if you win the Indy 500, you're going to want to drink the milk. And back in 1993, Emerson Fittipaldi won the Indy 500, and he was actually a Brazil driver. He had orange groves. And many people will remember this moment because he actually chose to drink orange juice before the milk, and the crowd actually started booing him. And he did eventually drink the milk that day. But even after the race, he said, now I know I should have drank the milk first. So it really does become not just something that the drivers are passionate about, but of the 300,000 people, the drivers know they need to reach for that bottle of milk and celebrate with that before anything else.
That's so cool, the community that has been built around milk in Indiana. Like that's not replicable everywhere else. So what a unique way to share milk and to share dairy in such a fun fashion where the community truly rallies around it.
Yeah, it's always funny. The Winners Drink Milk message, it's our website now for the American Dairy Association Indiana. It's our email address. And so it's always funny when you make reservations places or you're, sharing your email address and they go winnersdrinkmilk.com. It's just funny. It's like, well, this is who we are. And this is what so many people recognize us as now. And so, it would be kind of a shame not to just embrace what it is. And yeah, it's always, if you haven't been to the Indianapolis 500, you really need to come, or at least you need to watch it on TV and see what it's all about, because it really is pretty cool to see what it does for the dairy farmers and the story that they tell. And I mean, now even Fox Sports leading up to the Indy 500, they did so many promotional pieces around milk. That they're embracing it too. And so that's the goal at the end of the day, right? We want more people to realize that milk is cool. There's a reason why kids are drinking it at a young age, and not just the drink of milk at the Indy 500, but to know that it is nutritious and something that, we should have as part of our diets. But, to have 33 drivers on race day, all kind of vying for that drink of milk, it's like a pro athlete, right? Like kids are going to look up to those drivers. They're going to want to drink the milk just like the drivers at the Indy 500. And so to have that star power behind the drink of milk as well, it really does bring so much positive attention to dairy farming. And our dairy farmers are proud to do that, but also proud to represent all the dairy farmers across the country.
So this year, I believe you said that you had a unique situation with the dairy farmers that you had that were handing out the milk. Can you tell us a little bit more about who the dairy farmers were this year that were selected?
For the first time since 2005, I want to say, this is only the second time that two female dairy farmers have been in victory circle at the Indy 500. So usually it just kind of happens that it's, either two guys or a guy and a girl leading up to the race. But the timing just worked out that it was two females. So Abby Herr of Kendallville, Indiana, and Ashley Stockwell of Hudson, Indiana. Both moms, come from multi-generational farms. Abby is the first to tell you that she'll say milk is in her blood. She knew from a very young age that she wanted to be a dairy farmer. That's where she grew up, and that's just what she always wanted to do. She always creates a really cute visual that even as a young baby, her mom had a swing inside of the barn that she was in. So she was like, there was no other like place for me to be someday than to be a dairy farmer. And just Abby and Ashley both are just very strong, passionate women, very fun to get to hear them talk about dairy farming, but also just what it means to them to represent the female side of dairy farming. And so it was a really cool time. They both have daughters. Ashley has sons as well, but for them to kind of, show their daughters, be a role model for them, something they both became very emotional about speaking on race day, especially. Abby's daughters were watching the Indy 500 in person for the first time, and to have her in victory circle and handing off the milk, she was just very, very humbled by the experience, very honored to represent dairy farmers, but especially those females.
Well, and what a cool way to tie to the moms, which we know play such an influential role in helping to develop habits for children. So what a unique connection to share two dairy farm mom stories as well.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to be there on race day, especially, and have their husbands so proud to watch them, do that. And the husbands really could have had an opportunity to be the dairy farmer in the winner's circle too, but honestly, it just, they were thrilled to do it. And again, to just, be the moms that were there. And they were able to connect with a lot of fans. I think, you may not think of IndyCar fans as being moms. And I think they kind of brought that angle to it as well, just encouraging more women to tune in and to hear their stories. And it was just a really neat year.
Well, this has been such a really fun conversation, Brooke. I can't thank you enough for joining us. If there is one takeaway that you want listeners to get from this, what is that?
Well, we always want people to know that winners drink milk. And so if you're listening to this, you're already a winner. So there's that. But it's really important for us for all dairy farmers to know that, here in Indiana, we have this tradition, and we're very fortunate to have it, and something that we don't take lightly. We always say it really was because of Louis Meyer that we're here, and he just happened to drink buttermilk, and what are the odds? But every year, to us, it's important to continue to, put more behind it, and to kind of do it justice, and to carry on this tradition. And we hope that the dairy farmers that are representing dairy farming across the country and, even around the world are making everyone as proud as they make us. So we hope that when you see the drink of milk at the Indy 500, just know that there's dairy farmers there who have been doing media since about 7 a.m. that morning, that they're all talking about dairy farming on behalf of everyone tuning in. And they're very honored to do so. And so we just hope that you continue to support the drink of milk. And thanks for wanting to hear more about the story, because that alone, that's what we're trying to get our dairy farmers to do every day, is just talk about what they do every day and how cool it is, and to make that connection more and more to the community. And so this is just one way that we can do it. And we hope everyone knows how hard we're working to make it happen.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Your Dairy Checkoff Podcast. Want to hear more about how your checkoff is making every drop count? Head over to dairycheckoff.com or follow us wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.